Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the installment of Scott's Selections for Wednesday, October 14th. We're getting today's play of the day. Quick recap of what happened yesterday. The winning streak ended up ending as we ended up picking up a loss with the Bills over 3.5 touchdowns at plus 143 on DraftKings. I thought the game would be high scoring. It was when it ended up going over the total, but unfortunately, Buffalo's offense was really awful in that game. They only scored 2 touchdowns, so they were short. I looked pretty good in the first quarter. They had a touchdown in possession with about 4 minutes to go in the first quarter. Did pretty much nothing for the next 3 quarters and then ended up scoring a garbage time touchdown late. Overall, Tennessee, I figured, would struggle defensively because they had done so throughout the entire season, and they also weren't able to practice for the majority of 2 weeks. But Tennessee's defense was really good. Josh Allen struggled, and Tennessee ended up winning that game handily. Do I regret the play? No. You still ended up getting 20 cents of value in comparison to the rest of the market at plus 143 in comparison to roughly plus 120. But either or, ended up picking up a loss there. So we're going to be looking for a bounce back winner here on Wednesday. And for Wednesday's card, very limited, which is becoming a trend right now since basketball, of course, is no longer happening. You have a college football game going on between Louisiana Lafayette and Coastal Carolina. We're not going to be talking about that one, so we're going to be going through another 2-pick moneyline parlay, which should possess some value. Now, it's going to be one NFL game and one college game. So we're going to start out with the NFL game, and the first game is going to be on the Cincinnati Bengals and the Indianapolis Colts. And we're going to take the money line on the Colts, which is at minus 350 on Fox bet, a time recording of 1:47 a.m. Eastern time. The stupid parlay is going to pay out at minus 125, by the way, on Fox bet, just for reference. But the reason why I like the Colts here, I know the Colts ended up losing last week to Cleveland. However, it is worth mentioning that Cleveland is also 4-1. They're a pretty solid football team, shockingly, because of the fact that they're the Browns and people thought they would struggle. But Cleveland still has a very solid offensive line. They were really good offensively with the exception of a couple turnovers. And Cincinnati, on the other hand, has been awful offensively. They're averaging 20.4 points per game. They ended up allowing 7 sacks last game. They're allowing the most sacks per game in the entire league. They can't protect Joe Burrow. They can't run the ball. And A.J. Green is also injured. He's also been demanding a trade. So there's been a lot of side stories going on with Cincinnati, but mostly the fact that their offense can't protect and cannot protect Joe Burrow, which is a huge issue. And the Colts defense, even though they struggled last week, are actually very good. They're allowing 17.6 points per game, which is the second best in the entire league. And they're also allowing the fewest total yards per game in the entire league. So the Colts defensively have been fantastic so far this season. And at home, they have looked elite. They're 3-2 overall, but they are 2-0 at home with both wins coming by at least 17 points. Now, those wins did come against the Vikings and the Jets. So I know the competition at home has not been that difficult. But it's not really a bad thing considering the fact that Cincinnati is also an atrocious team. So I feel like Minnesota, if they beat us by 17, it's kind of a similar comparison, if not Cincinnati being worse than Minnesota. So I think that Indianapolis should look pretty solid in a Lucas Oil Stadium. Meanwhile, the Bengals are winless on the road. They do have one tie against Philadelphia, but they lost to Cleveland. They lost to Baltimore by 24 last game. Their 1-1 came against the Jaguars, and the Jaguars have shown how awful they are as a team. I think that Burrow will struggle once again in this start because of the fact that he will be dealing with constant pressure from DeForest Buckner, etc. And I do think that the Colts offensively should rely more on the ground, even though I will admit that Phillip Rivers is washed, and I think that he is an abysmal quarterback at this stage in his career. But as long as he limits the turnovers and as long as they are able to run the ball and dominate the line of scrimmage, especially since Cincinnati's allowing 159 rushing yards per game, I think Taylor and the other running backs should feast, and I think the Colts should win this game. So the first pick in this 2-pick moneyline parlay is going to be on the Colts moneyline, and the second pick is going to be on a college matchup between Texas A&M and Mississippi State. And I will be going with the Aggies here to get the job done. And that money line on Fox Bet is minus 250. So once again, the 2-pick parlay is the A&M money line and the Colts money line, and that pays out at minus 125 on Fox Bet. The time recording of 1:50 a.m. Eastern time. Now, a couple reasons why I like A&M in the spot. First of all, these two teams are headed in opposite directions. I feel like all of us kind of fell for the bait, and I'm one of those people who thought that Mississippi State, after beating LSU in the opener, was actually going to be a decent team in the SEC. However, it just turns out that LSU is really, really bad defensively. And ever since then, Mississippi State's offense has looked awful, as they only scored 14 points against Arkansas, and they scored 0 points against Kentucky. The 2 points they had came from a defensive safety, of course. So the offense did nothing last week, had 0 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. And the week before that against Arkansas, they also struggled as Costello has simply just not been getting it done, and the backup didn't look much better. Against Arkansas, you had Costello who threw 3 picks. Last week, Costello threw 4 picks, so he has 7 interceptions in his last 2 games combined. They can't stop turning the ball over, and I am a little bit concerned with them, especially at home. I know that they might be able to get a little bit of a spark at home, but after losing the home opener to Arkansas, I simply just think that this team is not very good. under Mike Leach's system, which makes sense because of the limited offseason because of COVID, etc. But at the end of the day, Mike Leach might take a year or two to actually get his players into the system. And right now, it doesn't really look like the team is fully dialed in. Defensively, they're not bad. But offensively, this team has been really, really underwhelming. And A&M, on the other hand, has done pretty well so far this season. They are 2-1. They ended up getting smacked by Alabama. But truth is, Alabama's the number 2 team in the country, and there's really no shame in that. In Tuscaloosa as well. They struggled a little bit in the opener as they only beat Vanderbilt by 5. But last game, they were able to beat number 4 ranked Florida at home by 3 points. They scored 41. They gave up 38, but Florida's offense is also a very solid unit with Trask at the helm. So I simply think that A&M should be able to do well against this very underwhelming Mississippi State team that has looked completely lost over the last 2 weeks. Is it possible that Costello can put something together? Maybe. But Mond has actually looked pretty good this season, and Spiller out of the backfield has been fantastic as he has 316 rushing yards. I think A&M should be able to do enough offensively to limit Mississippi State in terms of their defensive success. And I do think that Mississippi State's offense, which is only averaging 20 points per game, is just not that good. Costello, 6 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. He has serious issues with turnovers. Mond has 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. So I do think that A&M will win the turnover battle. And I think that A&M should be able to do enough offensively on the ground with Spiller to get the job done. I think this game will be close, but I do think that A&M, definitely being the 11th ranked team in the country against an unranked Mississippi State team that lost to Kentucky and to Arkansas in back-to-back weeks, should win this game. So for that reason, the 2-pick parlay once again for Wednesday, October 14th is going to be on the Texas A&M Aggies on the money line at -250 and the Indianapolis Colts at -350. And then a 2-pick parlay pays out once again at -125 on Fox Bet. That's been installment Scott Selections. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.